Te he mauri ora, e ngā mana, e ngā leo, e ngā iwi. E rā, rangi tira mai, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. So my name is Kenny Cho. Welcome, welcome to the third monthly webinar.
Well, they're just doing welcome to country in New Zealand.
Oh, go for it.
You might get someone to put mute on. Thanks.
So thank you so much, and I really appreciate Mitch for your availability. So this webinar stemmed from the idea that we heard from the members to give a platform for our members to share with the association and also the wider geothermal community about what they are pursuing, some of their projects, some of the key areas that they focus on. So this is the third time that we run it, so I anticipate to keep going. And this is a really fantastic way. So today we have Mitch, and really exciting because this is a really new area that he started as a new business and looking into what are some of the ways of how to produce gin as a beverage of how you utilize geothermal. So there's a really great story here. So I'm not going to steal the thunder from him. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to hand over to Mitch, and then for about 20 minutes for his presentation, then I'm going to ask him 3 questions, life related, career related. So while we are doing that conversation, the Q&A is open for the attendees to type your questions in the Q&A chat box. And then we go through and facilitate the questions, and then we will then have a closing. So that will probably run to about 1:10 or 1:15 today. So now I'm going to hand over to Mitch, and then so I'm going to mute myself, but please enjoy the presentation.
Cool. Kia ora koutou, tēnā koutou to those I haven't met. Look, I'm Mitch Collins. I'm formerly 1/3 of Pink and White, but now I guess there's 2 of us, but one has become 2. So there were 3 at the start. Now there's just the 2 of us. But what we've done is made gin, and quite simply, we've advertised it as geothermal gin, but it's more of a journey rather than where we are right now. We've started out in a garage like most other small projects, and for myself, my sins, I worked at Mercury in the geothermal department. I wanted to bring back a lot of those learnings and what I did know about geothermal and geothermal branding and push that into the gin space. I think for Rotorua, it has a lot of provenance. It has a lot of, I guess, a unique feel to it. It's something we base our tourism industry off. It's something that Rotorua, I guess, has an affinity to. It's a history to it. It's something that's easily identifiable, and so the best way to sell a product is to get, especially a local product, is to sell, I guess, a local space, and then hopefully in turn the local space will start selling you back. So for us, Pink and White was the natural progression of a gin brand. We came up with a few ideas of what we might have called the business, but Pink and White to us just shone out as the absolute, when you're talking about Victorian style, feel, flavor, taste, that's exactly what we wanted to go for. So that was about 3 years ago. Since then, myself and Kurt, so Kurt owns 2/3 of the business. He's been working away quite feverishly on the stills, making the product. The intention is for him to staircase up and eventually take over the business. And for me, my skills is mainly in consenting and project development. So that gets me in the space right now. We're trying to build our first geothermal distillery. That distillery is a work in progress. That we're looking at a small area on the top of Kurau Park, and connecting about 10 kilowatts of geothermal energy to run a boiler. So again, anyone feel free to jump in, type something in the side. I'm completely unscripted, so I just keep going as I go. So there's no slides to this, by the way, and I'll just shoot completely from the hip. But I do prefer a bit of banter, especially from you, Penny. So yeah, feel free to jump in as we go. Now, the process of actually getting of making gin is quite simple. It's you only need about 85 degrees of heat. That's run through a still. What comes off first is your first fractions of oils, and then as steadily your heavier fractions come out later on. So gin is not uniform in nature. What comes out in your first, in your heads, and what comes out in your tails is very different. So quality control is a big part of taking that fraction. For us right now, we use whey ethanol as our base spirit, and we do want to move towards more sustainable products and sustainable grains. Sustainability is where things are heading, and that for us, again, geothermal leans in heavily to that. And I've already talked before, I talked at our Taupō conference last year, why geothermal for us, and I had to be completely honest, it was all about brand. In terms of cost savings, in terms of added value, the amount of capital expenditure for our operation, for us still in getting set up is large. It's going to be a very big expense for us. But the electricity component of our build, the electricity amount that goes into every bottle of gin is tiny. We're talking about less than 0.5%. So for us to really lean in and to create value, we're not doing it in a volume, by way of volume. We're not doing it by way of I guess sustainability. It doesn't really stack up. Those numbers don't stack up in terms of savings, much like many other companies. What really does stack up for us is brand. So trying to lean into geothermal being more than just about heat and electricity. We're trying to sort of use the smell, taste, touch, and the feel of geothermal. So for us, it's about developing a geothermal brand, and you'll notice all of our geothermal, our Waimangu, Tapuia. We're talking Wairiki. All of them have they've developed a geothermal brand that's unique to themselves. It's unique to their own, and those are again very sensory feels, very much tourism centric. Now, are there many other geothermal brands out there? Most of that's limited to cosmetics, and so for us it was about creating more value, and the gin lends to that quite easy because it's a luxury product. People tend to pay a premium for gin. The margins are generally all in branding. It's mostly there. So for us, geothermal is a natural fit, outright natural fit. And so where we are right now is we're just making it in the back of a brewery, in Croucher's Brewery. We are not geothermal. We're only by name, not by nature yet. We've got a resource consent. We're looking to lodge resource consent very soon. That does involve a lot of consultation. Te Pumotanga o Te Aroa is the first party that we need to be consulting with, as we do with Ngāti Whakauai, Ngāti Rangawaewahi, and also Raukawa. So this is the process whereby we've largely got what we need down. We're repurposing heating that used to be for housing, and we're just adding another use to it. The good thing about our use is that we're throughout the middle of the day. We don't conflict with the residential heating load. Most people will sort of go to work during the middle of the day. I say most people. Right now, I think everyone's working from home, but the idea is that during the middle of the day when your heating load for the houses, it's got about 4 houses on the scheme, is less, we're hoping to be drawing from it at that time. And then late in the night, in summer especially too, most of our geothermal bores and our district heat networks largely wouldn't be needed. So summer happens to be when most gin is consumed. So when it comes to meeting demand, we can meet that happen. So we want to try and make sure that our business complements existing geothermal, and using only 10 kilowatts, we feel we can do that. It's going to be about 150 litres still. So that can make about close to about 120 bottles in a run of gin. So for us then, in terms of consultation, thanks, Penny. I was waiting for that. I see Penny just asked a question. Thanks. It's not a new consent application, but it's a change with reduced. Yes, that is correct. It is a change sort, but as with any change, I guess, especially for a new purpose, it needs to be assessed like a new consent application. But yes, we will be sticking to the existing consent timeframes. But thanks for correcting me on that one, Penny. What we're looking to do with our consultation is understand, like with iwi, like we can't really be putting our values into the Te Ao Māori worldview. What we need to do is have them reflected back on us. So we've given them what we're about. We've given them some of our opinions, and we acknowledge that iwi and alcohol don't always mix. Iwi and alcohol have a fraught history. Now, it's not always because iwi suffered from alcohol abuse more than anyone else. It's more that regulations around alcohol actually have been enforced differently with Māori and colonial settlers back in the day. It used to be that Māori were banned access to alcohol. They used to have regulations on what they could drink, where they could drink, and very different. So the hurt and a lot of the history around alcohol, how it's consumed, how it integrates into hospitality is it's very layered, and every iwi has a different understanding or a different relationship with it. So for us, we don't want to step into that space. We'd rather have that reflected back on us, and we're open to that feedback. We understand that a lot of hospitality goes on at our geothermal centres, at our geothermal villages, and with that hospitality, there is modern hospitality does tend to involve alcoholic beverages being consumed. So there is opportunities. I think we can work with them, but again, that's not for us to offer or for us to dictate. So yeah, we'll watch this space as we go. Like also just acknowledging the name Pink and White. It is derived from the Pink and White terraces. It's a tribute to the Pink and White terraces. And for us, if people want to know more about the Pink and White terraces, Waimangu and Volcanic Valley is the best place to find out about that. I encourage anyone to go and support Waimangu. We're an homage to them. And again, we want to make sure that we get our branding right. We want to make sure that it's targeted, and we want to make sure that it's respectful. Again, we have to be very respectful of the place that we're in. And Rotorua is more so than anywhere. So for us, in terms of the effects of our application, we shouldn't see much more other than cultural being front and centre. There are other developments going on, or potentially going on, heating developments in the area, and so it will be really interesting to see how that all kind of plays out in the mix in the future. Rotorua, as many people are aware, has a history of overuse, overdevelopment in the field, and there's been quite a market. There was a pullback at the time in response, and so now it's sort of I guess is. In terms of development, it's making better use or better use of what we have is probably a good way to put it. Most of those consents were pulled in by hotels, but in general, the environmental flows, so to speak, have been preserved for the whakarewarewa system and the geothermal field there. So protection of it has been the key element of consenting, and so for us, trying to get a new consent it's inherently going to be hard. So we have to make sure we can make the best with what's available. So when we went out and looked for geothermal bores, we had to look for people that had existing use, they had spare capacity, they had spare time for us to use it. And so it's not as simple as saying, oh, well, look, we just be able to drill a bore here or put one there. It has to be in a place which also meets a lot of local district planning regulations as well. A lot of the land ownership, especially over the geothermal reservoir, is quite tied up. And so for us, finding that sweet spot has been really hard. And in Kurau Park, I think we've found a great location. And so we were alerted that probably I should give a shout out to my friends at Bay of Plenty Regional Council and Jason for letting us know of someone who was raised in a house and they lived there their whole life, and now they used it as they tenanted the house out. and they were quite keen to just sort of see the house do something. It's in a commercial area, and they're looking for something to do with it in the future. And we reckon that by building a dedicated distillery, having a cellar door, we can just get those volumes, our volumes of sales up. What we want to make as a complete tourism destination, being at the edge of Kurau, being so close, being able to taste, feel, and have all that sensory right there in Kurau Park is ideal for us. That's where we want to be. That's for us that's kind of the ideal setting. But it's going to be a bit of time. To be honest, it's going to be a few months. We're about 3 months in already into the consent process, and it's going to be a bit more time. And so we've had a good bit of support also on engineering side with Greg Moore from Adobe. He's been really good, really understanding, really patient with us, and again he understands the needs of us, and he understands that we're not by all means a big organisation. That we have had offers outside of Rotorua, and there are a lot of opportunities. Like if our brand wasn't so fixed to Rotorua, by all means Taupo has a large amount of heat. I know that Rogue Boar looked into using LP steam. I think if you could get a gin distillery going in Taupo, I think that'd be a great place. And I think you'd have much readier access to heat than we've probably got in Rotorua in terms of the size of the bores, the nature of the bores, and just the history that goes with it. So yeah, like again, I saw the prawn park was up for sale a while ago. It's no longer on the market. I don't know if anyone's bought it. Someone might be able to tell me something about that. But hey, look, I reckon if you wanted to make a Japanese sake bar and turn those prawn fields into rice paddies, like you'd be there. I reckon you'd just, when it all comes back, that all come in droves. I think it'll be great. So the opportunities are there. The branding, for me, I can just see geothermal leaning into so much renewables. People, I think I often hear from engineers that geothermal is not well understood. From experience in resource consenting power stations for Mercury, I still wonder if it's very well understood, even by our own great scientists that we have. It's very dynamic, and there is a lot of science which I kind of part of me thinks is going to be one of the biggest barriers to geothermal, is the big unknown, and it's always comes with the exploratory risk. If there were ways of shoring some of that up, I'm sure, especially the exploratory risk, I'm sure some of the finance will follow. But in terms of trying to market it to people, the day-to-day people, again, the sensory things of geothermal just tend to really stick to what they can see and what's above the ground. So there's really a challenge, I think, coming up in terms of the next. We've gone through that phase of the low-hanging fruit of geothermal in New Zealand, and that next how do you say that next the next tier, that next fruit, so to speak, is going to be it's going to be really difficult. And so you're getting people that can identify more with it. I liked Rogue Boar because it identified a lot with the industrial nature, the drilling nature, the story of Waireke. To me, having some more of those stories and having them out there in our brands, it can only add value. So I'm sure some people have come up with some great marketing and branding ideas for their own geothermal products. I've got heaps. I've got too many. But I really want to lean into the smell of it at the moment. I think it would be great to make a deodorant that was based with geothermal clay, and really lean into the smell of Rotorua. I think that would sell. It would sell really well. I think it gets a lot of people sort of putting on that face when they come into Rotorua and they have a bit of a sniff. So that's kind of I guess a general rant. By all means, feel free to type in some more stuff or to turn your microphone off, or Kenny's got a few questions as well, but I can carry on. If there's any techie questions, anything like that, I can try my best to answer those, but yeah, keen to answer some more anyway as I go.
Thank you, Mitch. I think you touched on many aspects and also potentials for business opportunities as well. So I think we'll probably just keep just do a little bit of waiting for people to start typing in on the chat or on the Q&A. So I'm just going to switch to my live questions. So now you have touched on is the manufacturing process of gin, and also is a very unique product. So my question number one, what is your favorite drink?
My favorite drink? I'm a beer drinker. We all were beer drinkers, ironically. Actually, the other two were rum drinkers, but I convinced them to do gin first, mainly because gin is easier to make. So with gin, you have a base spirit, which is your whey ethanol, which we use. What I wanted to develop was gin is easy to make. It's just that your canvas is your spirit, and then all your botanicals is your palate. With rums, it's much more complex to make. You need to make it from jaggery, like from sugar cane. With your bourbons, it has to be barrel aged. With whiskey, it has to be barrel aged 12 years. With vodka, it has to be neat, very neat, and very much on the spirit itself. So gin was the natural thing for us to start doing. I had to convince the others to not do rum, and for me, my favorite drinks is probably an Emerson's. You know, I'm from Otago. I went to I'm from Te Awamutu, sorry, but I went to Otago Uni, and I used to spend a lot of time at Emerson's Brewery. But in terms of my favorite gin drink, I do love a Negroni. So yeah, that's part Campari, part vermouth, and part gin. So that's great every now and again. Just a bit of a treat.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you also touched on how much you enjoy, the connections with Whenua and also a number of the places in the region. In your view, where is the best place to raise our children?
Oh, best place to raise our children, Rotorua, absolutely. I love Rotorua. Like, again, from Te Awamutu, little dairy farming town, and we moved to Rotorua. My partner Tamsin, who works for Tauhara North No. 2 Trust, so she's party to some of these kind of machinations in the geothermal world as well. But we've got a little girl, Freya, and she's 3, and we just find this place amazing. It's a little playground, and we take her to the geothermal fields, and she sees the kiwi. She loves doing that. Like here, tourism's. Geothermal was the initial thing that brought tourism here, and then obviously all the amazing services and facilities that Rotorua has stemmed off that. So we've got to keep bringing people here, and we've got to keep looking after that geothermal resource, because that's the big pull, and that's what makes it such a great place to live, and it gives the warmest hearts. The people here are so hospitable, they're so welcoming, and I think it's the term I want to use is manaakitanga. Rotorua in itself is a very dynamic. It's a bicultural city, and I think that shows more here than many other places in New Zealand. And so I don't see us going anywhere in a hurry. This is the best place to be.
Thank you. Okay, last question. So keep typing your questions, folks. Okay, last question. Okay, so you spoke about the consenting process and looking into tapping into some of the heat resources for pink and white. Where do you, in your view, what is success look like for pink and white?
Success for us is having a cellar door, what's known as a cellar door, and so it's a tasting distillery room on the top corner of Kurau Park, with obviously nice ample parking to get in and being able to bring in people, and for us it's about getting people into Rotorua, giving them another experience which is quite different to the a lot of the you have a lot of activities, mountain biking, you have not so much wet day activities here, but you have beluge, you have hot pools, and for us it's speaking to the provenance of Rotorua and getting people to take Rotorua away with them. So we want them to come down, we want them to try it, we want them to get a bottle, we want to take that back with them. And so there's no better marketing tool sometimes than there's little alcohol gift packages and things that people take away with them, and some of the things that you share You know, like I've got someone that always buys me whiskey, and it's great to always get it. I don't drink the stuff, so I've got to, you know, I don't have the heart to show them that, you know, like I don't drink it, but we managed to hide it from the alcohol cabinet to tell them that, oh, you know, it was great, it was good, thank you. But you know, people love giving gifts like that, and for us, yeah, that's where we want to be. We want to be in duty free as well. So when people come to share the story of New Zealand has a strong geothermal identity, and you know, there's not many countries in the world that, you know, maybe can lean into that as much. You know, I think you got your Italy, you've got Japan. I think Japan leans heavily into their geothermal in some areas. And then, like, you've even got UK trying to lean in on it as well. You know, they're trying to make rum, and they've talked about it, and so we've been in contact with them, and you know, at the current rate they might beat us, but yeah, we're hoping it's probably going to be easier for us to get that access to heat.
Thank you. Okay, so just turning our attention to the chat panel now. So hello, kia ora Penny. So you raised a question about Kiwi or iwi response. So I think that might relate to Mitch's earlier topic.
Yeah, that's good. So Penny, the obvious thing is actually we haven't had any response. So we submitted it, our initial application, a draft application form with blank areas for consultation, and said this is our first go. We've run it across a planner at council, and look, it's for us. We're not rushing the process, but we haven't had any feedback yet. So I think Ngāti Rangiwewe, he said that they would likely defer to Ngāti Whakaui on some of those issues. But Te Pūmautanga or Te Aroa have a statutory acknowledgement over the geothermal field. They have to, I guess, they take it in, they discern what's there for them, and then they push it out to their affiliates. They have 11 affiliates. They've pushed it out to all 11. And I was just on a call with them this morning. So they pushed it out about 2 months ago. And on the call with them this morning, they said they haven't received a response. So I think they're going to be engaging a resource management advisor that may be able to help work in that space. And again, look, just really keen to see some of that feedback, keen to see what we can make a better application, and keen to see how we can just really like address any concerns.
So I guess, Mitch, my question was more, so yeah, certainly acknowledge the work you're doing in terms of the consultation to support the consent application. I guess they'll be looking more at the actual application, the taking of the fluid, use of it, but I was a little bit more curious about the branding, and you did touch on it, but the branding of alcohol using, you know, that taonga, which is geothermal and that people feel a strong emotional sort of connection with. And I guess it was in relation to, I remember 5 or 6 years ago there was a big outcry because of someone had proposed to call some beer brand a Hinamore.
That was, yeah. And then,
I just wondered if you've had something similar.
Yeah, and so no, we are very acutely aware of that. In the time that we've been here for 3 years, we have had active conversations more with tūhaurangi, not so much with Ngāti Rangatihi, but I think we do want to have more. We've had active conversations with Waimangu and the CEO of Waimangu. The main thing that we've said to them is that, hey, look, we're here. We want to be doing the right thing. We understand that iwi and alcohol don't mix, and we don't want to force you into a space where you feel like you have to give us approval if you don't want to. But we want to understand that, look, if we cross any lines, let us know. If there are any boundaries, let us know. We will try and do everything as much as we can. You know, given my limited Te Ao Māori, I'm still learning on a lot of these things. My Te Ao Māori worldview. We do not have Māori iconography on anything that we make. There was an instance, for example, you used, there was Tamari Coffee had a cocktail named after, I think it was Hinimoa Tūtanakai, and he justified it by having whakapapa. There was also the brewery up in Auckland, which had the Hinimoa and I think Tūtanakai, so something similar anyway. They had the beers, and I think that was probably in poor taste because there was no consultation done. And they did pull that line. And so the illusion, I guess the names by themselves, pink and white, To what point does that become a Māori name or a Māori brand? And so it is an allusion to the terraces. They are a taonga, they are a lost taonga. Absolutely. We accept that, and we want to make sure that we're respectful of them too. Another spirits brand, they made a gin called Indigenous, sort of a play on words with gin in the middle, and they put taumoko all over their bottles. And you know, they had a friend and they said, oh, you know, he whakapapa's back and he made this, but a lot of local iwi and the kapiti weren't happy about that, and so they have now changed and rebranded to Imagination. So yeah, we watched that quite heavily and closely as well. And again, we've been here for 3 years. We'd like to think that if there was anything that we were doing wrong, we would know by now, or someone would have reached out to us and told us. Maybe as we get bigger, that might happen more. We just got to make sure that we're well prepared, and we got to take feedback as it comes. And again, my biggest thing is that this is not. I don't see this as a source of conflict. I see as the best thing we can do is help promote Rotorua tourism, and we can help promote visiting geothermal features. We can help promote, especially in this case, Waimangu. And I'd encourage anyone, if they want to learn more about Waimangu and the pink and white terraces, that's where they should go. They shouldn't get it from us. That's not our story, and it's not our taonga at all. So that's kind of where I'd point a lot of people. That Ngāti Rangatihi have had a recent statutory acknowledgement in that area as well. And so again, a lot of iwi are still trying to find a lot of identity in these areas, in a lot of these fields, and they're just getting that formalised in law, getting and making I guess some really big commercial and ownership plays in these geothermal fields. So that's great to see. But yeah, to your question, Penny, yeah, we haven't had enough feedback yet, but we're obviously always open to it. If that answers it. Cool.
Okay, I think yeah, that's a very comprehensive, and also like giving the audience here a really good understanding about the importance of talking to the people, the indigenous people, and also understanding the story behind it. Yeah. So next one is from Jess. I think probably I might have asked that is about whether pink and white will go for international. I think it was clear to us that you want that to expand to other markets. So the other question that Jess raised is about the perception of geothermal outside of the community. So do they realize, or in your experience, do the people realize that the renewable energy element of the geothermal brand, or are they drawn to the visual geothermal idea?
I think it's more of the latter at the moment. I think, you know, like I've been in the industry for a while, and I love seeing, you know, these big, great steel pipes and, you know, all the flash bells and whistles and everything that goes on. And I've probably been in there too long. To me, geothermal's great. It's wonderful. I cut my teeth on Ngāpurua. I was involved in the consenting project. To me, and I understand more about geothermal than a lot of the general public. But I love sharing those stories, and this is where we're going to get those nice shiny bits of you know, steel coming up soon. And for us, it's got to be a key part of the brand. I remember we were not going to make it until we had that, but I think we realised that we had to make the gin first and get some credibility, and to be able to approach people to then make it happen. It would have been much more difficult us going the other way around. I think when we first started, we tried to get the geothermal. We thought it would take us a few months. We were largely seen as punters. As soon as we had a brand behind us, we had a double gold award behind us, people then started to recognise that, hey, these guys are actually serious. They need a bit of business. So you know, like I think, I don't know if you obviously know Simon Addison. He always says to us, "No, it's not geothermal. It's not geothermal. You just call yourselves gin. You can't put that sticker on it." And so we're a geothermal in story, but we're not in production yet. And to me, that is the focus. That is what we want to be doing. And once we get that, you know, we're looking for a TV spot. We're looking for you know, like just ways to get that more brand visibility.
Yeah.
You know,
and the campaign and the iconic visual of it. Yeah. Okay. So last question is also from Penny. So how important it is in your business for the long-term energy security to you?
Long-term energy security. Oh, that's a great consents question. Oh, I like 35 years. Thanks, Penny.
I sort of I fed you that one, didn't I?
Oh, you did feed me that one.
I'm just curious because you've said because your use of geothermal once you get going is actually, I mean, that's not a whole lot, is it? But I guess we do feel those questions around the timeframes for consents, and how important is that sort of security and certainty for you when you're going through the sort of processes that you're going through now?
I understand the relative small timeframes when it comes to why consents could be in smaller timeframes, especially when it comes to geothermal and energy use, because it drives efficiency. In my view, I think that we have a large amount of resource allocated, especially in Rotorua, that may not necessarily be used efficiently. And so when I talk efficiently, I'm talking diurnally. I'm talking, heat load at night, or heat for cooking, heat different hours, heat for hotels. But when it comes to summer, what do you do with it all? There's nothing like that. That heat is you're basically just keeping the wells running, and you're keeping things ticking over. And you sit and you say, well, here's a resource that we're only using half the time, and you have to keep these wells running. You have to, they have to be well maintained and serviced. Is there a way that we can work these systems so that they have more efficiency, or we can make business adapt to the resource, or adapt to how it's been allocated? Now, again, that's a hard one. And resource consents are on a first in, first served, very similar to how water's managed. I don't think that they quite have the flexibility of dealing with some of these complex things, but I think that the system works pretty well and generally just needs the tweaking as we go. And in terms of grandparenting consents and trying to, once you're in, securing that and keeping that going, like once you have a consent, it's really for us, that 10-year time frame. If we did lose our energy security, we'd be looking at other sites, at other options. And the main thing that you see is the feedback in the reservoir. Rotorua is hard because it's not as well mapped, it's not as well modelled as a lot of other development fields out there. And so analysing those feedbacks and also for the users there, trying to justify reducing their allocation or even justifying more allocation it can be quite fraught when you're dealing with a system on a whole. But that's the great nature of Rotorua. I think they had to make some bold calls 30 odd years ago, and though they did pay off, we did start seeing surface features returning, and the science was relatively well understood. The science is getting better, but it's very hard to understand the underground plumbing, in my opinion anyway.
Thank you. Okay, last question is from Kai. So can the geothermal resource be simultaneously used for energy and also for minerals extractions? So in the case of lithium or other metals?
Help. We are in a semi-residential area, so looking at some of that stuff, I guess it could. I've had a range of people ask about the geothermal fluid itself. What we're using is it's a downhole. It's got an injection bore and a production bore, and it effectively comes straight out. It goes through and then back down into the injection bore. It's a closed loop system. Effectively, the injection and production bore aren't that far apart. It's not a downhole heat exchanger explicitly, but it's pretty close. So there is, apart from the occasional bleed, all of it is returned to the system. So in terms of extracting minerals, personally, I probably wouldn't go there. We had someone say, "Can you bleed off some of the water and can you use it in your gin?" And I was like, I've got a history of looking at drill cuttings and contaminated sites related to geothermal. I know the amounts of arsenic, antimony, silica, all of those within geothermal water. But this was the CEO of Red actually said to me, well, why don't you make a gym with geothermal brine or geothermal water? It would work really well. And I I had to laugh, but yeah, can the geothermal resource in Rotorua be used for that? Look, I doubt it. But again, I'd like to be convinced otherwise. I think we have a lot of great other fields that can be used for that. The stuff, the work that Geo40 is doing down in Taupō. I think, look, and some of the work on it, I think other industries are looking into as well. I think this is going to be a great new phase for geothermal. It's just that the sensitivity around extracting water and that intrinsic value of water, especially again taking that iwi element in, I just don't think it would probably mesh well in Rotorua. Changing waters, mixing waters. We have a lot of wastewater issues in Rotorua. We have stormwater issues, and seeing some of that play out in a sort of a mineral extraction process, I'm not sure how it would work.
Yeah,
again,
but whereas
again,
the Geo40, would be more appropriate. Yeah.
So, again, my own opinion, but yeah.
So Kai, we do have another organization that is based in Taupo and primarily focusing on minerals extraction. So they have presented to us a couple of times. So that will be a really good story to share with the community as well. So on that note, thank you, Mitch. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for taking your time. And also thank you for the audience today, given that it is school holidays and also a short week. So thank you so much for all your attention, for all your time. So just a last plug. So the New Zealand Geothermal Week that we are partnership with Amplify, who is the Taupo Economic Development Agency. We are going to run our second year New Zealand Geothermal Week on the 25th to the 29th of July. So that will be based in Taupo and also some of the Bay of Plenty region. So we have currently on our diary 17 events, and looks like that we are going on the more than 17 rather than less than 17. So the week will be full of fantastic opportunities to meet you and also people in the field and also people outside of the field. And specifically, on the Thursday, 28th of July, that would be the New Zealand Geothermal Association Winter Seminar. So that is our annual conference that showcase the geothermal business cases. And last year, Mitch came and spoke to us. Also on that night, we will be celebrating our 30th anniversary. Gosh, no, okay, in 1992. That was the first time that the Geothermal Association was born. And now 30 years later, so we are celebrating this. There will be a heaps of fun on that night. So more detailed already in the newsletter that was shared with you last week, but we will be keep going to the comms and the registrations details following in the next couple of months. So I hope that you will have some time to come and meet with us and also present or share with us your fantastic work. So Mitch, thank you so much. Thank you for the audience. The May webinar will be coming soon. So we will be releasing the details very shortly. So on that note, thank you so much. Thank you, Mitch. I hope that I will see you in person. And our next social event is on the 19th of May. So Jess will send out more information. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, can I get a
Thank you. Yeah, Mitch, you go.
Oh, sorry, a quick plug-in just before I finish up. NZGW, go on our website, enter NZGW. I didn't even get approval to do this, I just did it. But 15% off if you want to buy any gin on our website. So free delivery in Rotorua as well for anyone that's local.
Do you want to type in your website link to the chat box?
It's www.pinkandwhite.co.nz, and the code is NZGW when you're on in your checkout. So
thank you. Okay, awesome. So that's the secret code.
Yeah, that's the secret code. I've got to watch this to get it though.
Okay, No problem. Okay, so make sure that Jess has all this recorded.
Yeah, and it's it expires end of the week too. So yeah, hopefully we can get everyone on board till then.
Wow. Okay, that's a really short time frame. Okay, we are going to head the shopping carts tonight.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day.
Cheers. Ka kite.
Yeah, thank you.